Welcome back, everyone. In the last unboxing video, we took a look at two blue friends from the Northwestern Railway, and today we're going to be taking a look at another blue engine, Edward, who is my favorite character, and also Percy, a little green engine. We're going to switch it up a little with Percy. I don't think looking at blue engines the whole unboxing video series would be a good idea. But anyway, to these items, I think I'm almost more excited to take a look at these two than Thomas and Gordon, as these two engines, I like them more personally, character-wise, and also they are more different from their original Thomas Wooden Railway models. As you can see, I'll bring in Percy and also Edward. Of course, Edward is the 2013 variant, the Mattel variant, and Percy is the 2003 classic Percy that everyone loves and has a million of. And as you can see from the boxes of these Thomas Wooden Railway 2022 items, they are extremely different. So let's switch it up this time and take a look at the bigger engine first. We're going to be taking a look at Edward first. And also Edward, obviously, is my favorite character. So I think it'll be nice to dedicate more time to his unboxing. We're going to leave the normal Edward right there and take a look at this Edward right here. This Edward I got for Christmas last year, and it was a great present to get because I wasn't expecting it. Actually, it was from family at a Christmas party a couple weeks after Christmas that they don't live in town, so that's why we did a Christmas party like that. And it was a great surprise to get after Christmas when the doldrums of summer, or rather winter, sorry, there's no doldrums in summer. Summer's the greatest thing ever. The doldrums of winter start to show, and, it starts to slog on after Christmas happens. So anyway, this has this back tab right here that I mentioned in the last unboxing video. As you can see, this Thomas box did not have that. So this Edward was released in Wave 2 of the item, so that is why this tab is present on this item, to hang it on shelves, I guess. Although whenever I've seen this in stores, it's just been sitting on a shelf, not hanging on a rack, so I don't really know why they implemented that. This box is also a little bit dented. I don't remember that being dented the last time I looked at it, so I'm not really sure how that happened, but regardless, I think it is still a pretty cool box. And inside the box, it's a pretty cool engine as well, as you can see Edward right there. And turning the box around, another noticeable difference is that it has this tab right here that I guess you could pull out the engine from the back, and that is not present on this Gordon box right here that we took a look at in the last video. So there's several differences between all these items, and it is interesting to see between the different production waves how small differences happen. And of course, living in the age of this new line being released, that is pretty cool to see all the nuances that these items have. So without further ado, let's take a look at Edward right here. I've got my scissors, and I'm going to try to carefully pull Edward out, and I'll be back when I do so. And finally, after much struggling, I did manage to get Edward out of the box. And this will be a great thing to display on my shelf. Last time I kept the boxes out of the background, but I think it will be nice to have it as a little backdrop as we take a look at this Edward model. And my first impressions are pretty good. Edward is a little oddly shaped, and originally, the reason I didn't get Edward right up front, even though he's my favorite character, is because I thought he looked a little bit strange. And looking at him in person, he does look a little bit wonky. However, I think maybe that's just my eyes being trained so heavily to favor this Mattel Edward right here. That's our standard Edward that we all think of when we think of Thomas Wooden Railway Edward. He's been practically unchanged for 25 years in the Thomas Wooden Railway line, and then this radical model shows up and changes everything. Speaking of this radical model, there is so many differences. First, he has these smaller wheels in the front, and of course, for the first time, he has an accurate wheel configuration. Gordon, I'm not sure if this is a completely accurate wheel configuration, but it's pretty close to it, I guess. And of course, his tender is an accurate wheel configuration. And I think Edward is completely accurate in his configuration sense. An interesting note is that his bogies have these ridges on them, which is a little bit interesting. I'm not sure if I mentioned that with Gordon, but Gordon had that too. I forgot a lot of things in that Thomas and Gordon video, but I'm making up for it now. He does have that vertical Edward on the chassis right there, And his face, once again, it's one of those annoying faces that's not a smiling or neutral face. It's this shocked face, which I think is probably the worst of the faces we've looked at so far. Thomas was giving a smirk. Gordon was kind of looking surprised. But Edward is just looking too surprised, in my opinion. His funnel looks okay, except there's that ugly seam line again. And it does look like his dome is accurate, although, in my eyes, again, trained to look at the original Edward, it does look a bit tall. He does also look a bit elongated, however, that's technically how he's supposed to be. And I do like his nose right there. I think that's a pretty good Edward nose. How his nose is probably one of the most pointy in the series. And as you can see right here, that is shown in this mold. But this one is a little bit cuter, I think you could say. A little bit more dainty, I guess you could say, for Edward. And his cab is a good size. He has those wheel arches. And I think that's a little bit of, side rod detailing, which are obviously supposed to go here, and then his front bogies are just freewheeling. He has nothing on the back, as is standard for these models, and he does have that red firebox glow in his cab. And overall, I think this is a pretty good Edward model. He has, I think, do you call those counterbalances, or I'm thinking of the complete wrong thing? Correct me if I'm wrong, but maybe that's what those are called on the wheels. And this tender, I don't like how the wheels are separated so far on his tender right there. I think that's a little bit strange. And it does just look a little bit odd compared to if I took this Edward's tender. I guess it's not really that big of a difference, but it just does look a little bit odd in my opinion. Now, how cursed is that if we switch the tenders? I just kind of wanted to do that. That looks just so wrong. I mean, this Edward doesn't look that bad, but this Edward just... what even is that? That's just... I'm gonna get probably demonetized for trying to show that. You know how YouTube is, guys. And he has his printed coal right here, which I think, as always, looks great. And did I say printed? I mean, maybe 3D printed coal, I guess you could say. It's not printed coal. I'm sorry I keep confusing those. It is molded coal. So if I ever say that again, I apologize that I misspoke. There's not really anything else about his tender that I guess you could say, although it is shaped differently, how it has this divot right here and then a more long divot right here. I don't know what you'd call that, but this tender right here is common in all the tender engines basically, except for maybe Emily or Murdoch. But overall, this Edward is pretty good. I think maybe so far it's probably my least favorite model out of the 3 that we've seen. However, that's not to say that it's not horrible. It's just probably my least favorite so far. And again, that's not a knock on the range. There's some pretty great items in this range. This one is just a little bit weird with the proportions. Maybe that's totally just something in my mind that I'm fabricating. However, to me, it's just a little bit off for Edward. However, this Percy model, I think, has few faults to it, and I'm excited to take a look at it. It does have that plastic tab, or hook, I guess you could say, on the back of the package. And I forgot to mention that on the top here, it has Percy in several different languages, which is always an interesting addition when it has multilingual packaging. And what does it say up here? Track sold separately. Okay, that wasn't really that big of a deal. And, oh, I forgot to mention this. Speaking of track, as you can see, they got rid of the dust detailing or dirt detailing on the track that they were originally going to have. And as you can see for Edward and Percy, they got rid of that detail, which is always interesting to see. Anyway, we're done with Edward. Sorry, Edward. I know my channel's name wouldn't really Edward. That was a little bit mean of me to my favorite character. But I also really like Percy. He can get a bit annoying sometimes, but you know what? We all do sometimes. He, again, has a surprise face, which is, admittedly, sorry to repeat it again, annoying. But I guess these surprise face variants are just something we'll have to deal with these items. I guess maybe their most common character trait or like thing they're known for is what's depicted on their face. However, I can think of numerous examples that poke holes in that theory, as Edward has never really been surprised. Henry has not really had that face he has on his Thomas Wynne Railway model. And I will say I have not gotten Henry yet. And honestly, Henry might be my favorite item in this entire range, which is pretty interesting as Edward is my favorite character. However, Henry, I think, is a really great item and looks amazing, and I cannot wait to get him when I eventually do. Unfortunately, he's been out of stock on Amazon, and when I went to Barnes & Noble, they didn't have him, so that's unfortunate, but maybe he's just a really popular model, who knows. This guy I have seen at Barnes & Noble, and I actually got him on Prime Day, on Amazon Prime Day, so he's actually a model I've not had in the box for long, and I'm glad to, after, 2 weeks of waiting to finally unbox him. So his surprise face right there, I think, is okay for Percy. Again, it's mixing that CGI all engines go look, which I'm indifferent to. It's like, it's whatever. He has that buffer beam detailing, and he has, I think, I don't even know what that is, like springs, or I don't even know what you call that. All you engine enthusiasts can tell me in the comments below. And he has that mold seam again, which I really just keep complaining about because it's so annoying. They did not used to have those on the models, and I know these are made in a different country, actually. I cannot remember what country they changed production to, but ever since they moved production, it's been a downhill in the quality. And of course, these models look nice, but the wood quality and just some of the errors that are made are kind of disappointing for such a big conglomerate like Mattel that they don't have quality control. He does have this bunker right here, and he does have this little plastic jut out that's attached to the coal, the not printed coal, I almost said it again, the molded coal, and his cab is nicely sized compared to Thomas, who I think his cab is a bit short, and I guess you could say, and his boiler is too far up. But Percy, I think, is proportioned greatly, and obviously the biggest difference from a normal Thomas Wooden Railway Percy is that he is much shorter and is on a not really that much of a smaller chassis. However, his wheels are much closer together, and I think, honestly, that looks pretty great for this item. Being used to this Percy my whole entire life, this is all I've ever known. And to see this Percy is different, of course, but I think it's a welcome addition to get something new for a change. And if I move this Thomas here, I think they look great together. And obviously, Edward in the back. All these items together just look fantastic. It does look like his dome is sunk in a little bit. Maybe that's just me, but that looks a little bit strange. His lining is very crisply painted. It's probably some of the best printing I've seen on these items. Of course, this spring box, or whatever it's called, looks a little bit fake with this printing. I don't know really how to describe it. I couldn't describe it in the last video either. But just the way they print on the detailing is a little bit cheap. It looks a little bit fuzzy, I guess you could say, not the highest quality. But he does have that firebox glow, his number 6, and he has the rivet detailing. And I think he's identical or mirrored on both sides. He does have some nice curvature, I guess you could say, right here, going from his boiler down to where his footplate is. So obviously that's an interesting mold to have on this item. And he does have different proportions from other Percys that we have seen. And overall, I think he's a great, great model. And I don't really have that much more to say about him. So we're going to take Thomas out of the equation right here. He was not shown in this video. And Thomas, frankly, gets the spotlight too much. We're going to bring in Percy's package right there, and we're going to bring in this Edward right here. We're going to push that Edward off to the side. He's old news. And overall, these two items, I am impressed with them. The Percy I do like more. I think I do like Percy more. If I had to rank them so far, I'd say Gordon, Percy, Thomas, Edward, from the ones I like most to the ones I like least. And of course, as I'll say for maybe the third time, that does not mean that I dislike the Edward. It's just that he has some weird inconsistencies and quirks about him that I'm not totally warmed up to his model yet, but if I use him maybe for something or see him on my shelf later, I think I'll warm up to his model a lot more. So I don't think really I have that much more to say about these models or about this video in general. I'm glad we're chugging right along with these unboxing videos. It's fun to do smaller unboxing videos like this and have a consistent upload schedule for once. That's something that this Wooden Railway Edward channel has practically never had, except for one time in 2020 when I had maybe 4 videos in 3 weeks. I know, that's insane coming from modern day Wooden Railway Edward. However, thank you for watching this video, and leave in the comments below what are your rankings of these items so far. Maybe every unboxing video you can update your rankings of these items. And also, I'd like to say, please make sure to, of course, comment, like the video. That really helps the YouTube algorithm to recommend my video to other Thomas lovers. And also, if you can take the time out of your day, please make sure to subscribe to my channel. I'm pretty close to 1,000 subscribers, which would help a ton in the road to monetization. And of course, with monetization comes this channel gaining revenue from these videos, and I'll invest all that money back into this channel to make it better than ever. My first goal is to invest in new lighting. As you can see, the lighting is a bit dim. It's not terrible, but I would like to get some good studio lighting in here to brighten things up. But as I said, please make sure to subscribe to this channel. I found that asking people nicely actually goes a long way. Who knew that being nice on the internet would lead to good things? And make sure to put on bell notifications too, to make sure you're notified when a new video is posted. As I know, the YouTube subscription is finicky with how videos are recommended to you and all that. But anyway, as I said, thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed these models. I know I certainly did. And I think it's time for me to get a drink of water because my throat is very dry. I'll see you in the next video. Have a great day.